There was a time when football was not measured only by trophies, stats, or media hype. It was measured by emotion, the collective breath of a crowd, the quiet anticipation before a free kick, the dreams of children chasing a ball in the streets of Brazil. Brazil stood at the center of this feeling. Not because it always won, but because it played differently. Brazilian football was about freedom, creativity, and joy. The ball was not just an object. It was a companion, a partner in an artistic expression known only to those who dared to dream. From this golden era emerged to legends, each walking a different path, but connected by a single truth: football is meant to be felt. One embodied calm, intelligence, and faith. The other embodied joy, creativity, and fearless imagination. Before the trophy, before the debate, before the cameras followed every step, there was only a ball, rolling across cracked concrete, chasing the dreams of children who believed football could change their lives. In Brazil, football was never silence. It was rhythm. It was laughter echoing through narrow streets. It was radios playing match commentary from open windows. It was barefoot kids copying moves they had only seen once, replaying them until sunset erased the lines on the ground. This is where legends are born, not in stadiums, but in imagination. At the turn of the millennium, football stood at a crossroads. Tactics were tightening. Systems were suffocating creativity. The game was becoming faster, stronger but colder. And then Brazil reminded the world of something important: football is meant to be felt. Two men carried that message in completely different ways. One ran like destiny itself, calm and unstoppable. The other danced like music, smiling in defiance of pressure. Kaká and Ronaldinho. This is not just their story. This is the story of an era, a different beginning. Ricardo is Exxon dos Santos Leite was born on April 22, 1982. In Brasilia, far from the beaches and favelas often associated with Brazilian football myths. His home was structured. Books mattered. Discipline mattered. Faith was a daily language. Kaká grew up surrounded by encouragement, not desperation. And because of that, many would later misunderstand him. But purpose does not always come from suffering. Zombies, it comes from belief. On the pitch, young Kaká was not loud. He observed. He calculated. While others chased the ball, he chased space. Coaches noticed something unusual. Kaká always seemed to arrive exactly where danger was about to happen. The accident that almost ended everything at 18. Kaká's life changed in a moment. A swimming pool accident damaged his spine. Doctors warned him that football could cost him his future or his mobility. This was not a headline moment. No cameras, no drama. Just a quiet room. And a decision. Kaká chose faith over fear. Months of recovery followed. Silence replaced noise. But when he returned, he was different. Football was no longer an expectation, it was a gift. Snow Polo to Milan. A boy meets European Snow Polo FC. Kaká's rise was swift, but controlled. European scouts saw intelligence, timing, and maturity far beyond his years. In 2003, AC Milan signed him. Italy was brutal for attackers. Space disappeared. Defenders waited patiently. Many Brazilian talents broke under the pressure. Kaká didn't. He learned. He adapted. He evolved. At Milan, Kaká became a weapon of precision. His long strides devoured space. His goals were clean, ruthless, inevitable. The year the world slowed down. 2006-2007 season was not just greatness, it was domination through elegance. Kaká carried AC Milan through the Champions League. His performances against Manchester United felt unreal, running past defenders who knew exactly what was coming and still couldn't stop it. When Ronaldinho arrived at Barcelona, the club was lost. Identity was fading. Confidence was gone. He brought joy. Wearing legendary numbers including the iconic number 9, Ronaldinho didn't just revive Barcelona. He transformed global football culture. Elastico, no-look passes, impossible free kicks. He played like football was a celebration. In 2005, he won the Ballon d'Or. That same year, Real Madrid fans stood to applaud him. Respect had no colors that night. That year, Kaká won the Ballon d'Or. No controversy, no rivalry, just respect. In an era soon to be defined by numbers and debates, Kaká stood alone, proof that intelligence and humility could still conquer football. Decline without disgrace. Injuries eventually took their toll. At Real Madrid, moments of brilliance flickered between physical pain. But Kaká never lost dignity. He retired quietly. No scandals. No bitterness. Just gratitude. Where music became football. Ronaldo da Assis Moreira was born on March 21, 1980, in Porto Alegre. His childhood echoed with laughter, futsal, and rhythm. Football was freedom. Then tragedy struck. The sudden death of his father shattered his world. Ronaldinho never spoke much about the pain. He played it out. On the ball, he smiled. Off the ball, he carried scars. Streets, futsal, and fearlessness. Ronaldo learned football where mistakes were punished by laughter, not criticism. Tight spaces forced creativity. Instinct ruled over instruction. At Grêmio, defenders feared embarrassment. At PSG, Europe saw chaos, but discipline lagged behind genius. But magic burns fast. Ronaldinho loved life deeply, sometimes too deeply. Training became optional. Nights became longer. Focus faded. His decline was swift. Yet even as trophies stopped, inspiration exploded. Messi learned joy. Neymar learned freedom. The world remembered why football mattered. Kaká and Ronaldinho were never rivals. They were balance, together in the Brazilian national team, especially during the 2006 World Cup. Expectations were unbearable. Ronaldinho created. Kaká attacked. One imagined. The other executed. The tournament ended in disappointment, but history is not always written by trophies. Sometimes it is written by memory. To Ballon d'Or winners. Kaká and Ronaldinho shared more than nationality. They represented the full spectrum of Brazilian football: creativity, discipline, passion, and intelligence. They played together in the Brazilian national team, notably during the 2006 World Cup. Ronaldinho brought imagination. Kaká brought execution. Together, they embodied balance, showing that greatness could be achieved through different paths. Two philosophies. One country. Modern football is faster, smarter, more efficient, but something is often missing. Kaká reminds us that greatness can be calm, faithful, and disciplined. Ronaldinho reminds us that joy is not weakness, is rebellion against fear. They were not rivals, but reflections, contrasting styles leading to the same summit of excellence. Football moves fast. Eras change. Players rise and fall. Yet some stories remain etched in memory. Kaká reminds us that greatness can be quiet, faithful, and disciplined. Ronaldinho reminds us that joy, creativity, and freedom are essential to the game. Together, they represent a time when football felt human, when players were artists, not just athletes. Together, they represent the full soul of football: art and order, smile and silence, freedom and responsibility. Long after the highlights fade, their legacy remains not in numbers, but in feeling. This was not just football. This was Brazil teaching the world how to feel again. A child kicks a ball against a wall. The ball comes back. The dream continues. Together, they represent a time when football felt human, when players were artists, not just athletes. As the final whistle echoes and the lights slowly fade, one truth remains clear: football is more than minutes. It is memory. It is emotion. It is the silent bond between generations who never met, yet felt the same joy, watching the same magic. Kaká and Ronaldinho did not just play football, they gave something to it. Kaká showed us that greatness can be humble, that discipline, faith, and patience can stand tall even in a ruthless world. He reminded us that you don't need noise to be powerful. Sometimes, the quietest players leave the deepest marks. Ronaldinho showed us joy, pure, fearless joy. He reminded us why we first fell in love with the game as children. That football is allowed to smile. That creativity is not a luxury. It is the soul of the sport. Together, they represent something modern football often forgets: that the game belongs to the people. To the kid kicking a ball against a wall, to the fan watching highlights late at night, to the dreamer who still believes football can feel magical again. And now, the story passes to you. Long after the stadiums are empty, long after the trophies gather dust, their story endures in the hearts of those who believe football is more than a game. Because somewhere between Kaká's run and Ronaldinho's smile, football became human, and that will never disappear. This was football. This was Brazil. This was Ronaldinho number 9 and Kaká. If this documentary made you feel something, if it reminded you of a moment, a player, a dream, then don't let that feeling fade. Like this video to keep these stories alive. Share it with someone who loves football the way you do. And subscribe to this channel so we can continue celebrating the legends, the memories, and the moments that made football beautiful. Every like tells YouTube that stories like this matter. Every share keeps the magic alive. Every subscription helps build a community that remembers football not just as a sport, but as an emotion, because legends never truly retire. They live on in stories. They live on in memory. They live on in people like you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for believing. And until the next story, keep the ball rolling. Keep the dream alive.